Okay, let's jump right in. Today, we're taking a magnifying glass to one of the most famous and, literally, most widely cited economic metrics in the world, gross domestic product, or GDP. You hear it on the news constantly, right? It's treated like the ultimate scorecard for a country. But in this explainer, we're going to demystify these national income aggregates. We really want to unpack exactly why GDP is, well, honestly, far from a flawless measure of a society's overall health and economic welfare.
Have you ever caught yourself asking this exact question? If the GDP is up, if the national economy is supposedly just booming and the charts are pointing to the sky, why don't we feel richer in our day-to-day lives? It's a super relatable, kind of provocative question. There is very often this huge, profound disconnect between soaring macroeconomic numbers and our actual daily household realities. And to understand why that disconnect exists, we got to look past those top-line numbers.
So, let's dive into it. Today, we're exploring what we call the Six Veils. Basically, these are 6 specific limitations that completely obscure true economic welfare when we rely solely on GDP. From income distribution all the way to omitted quality of life metrics, we're going to pull back each illusion step by step to reveal the actual full picture of national wealth.
All right, pulling back veils 1 and 2, income distribution and the composition of output. Let's see what's behind them.
So a rising overall GDP curve? Obviously, it looks fantastic on paper. But we have to recognize that a surging GDP can absolutely mask severe internal wealth inequality. Think of it like a giant pie. Even if real per capita income rises, meaning the pie is getting bigger, it's really only a partial index of economic welfare if that new wealth is entirely concentrated at the very top. For a lot of people, their personal welfare might actually be stagnant or even falling, while that national average just keeps going up.
And the composition of a nation's output matters just as much as the sheer volume. Civilian goods, things like bread, butter, clothes, these directly satisfy our daily needs. But non-civilian goods, like guns and tanks for defense, or heavy capital goods built for future production, they don't help your current consumption at all. If a country's GDP is rising rapidly just because it's churning out a massive amount of armaments, well, the raw numbers swell, but it fails entirely to elevate immediate household living standards. At the end of the day, you can't eat a tank.
Moving right along, let's pull back veils 3 and 4, the manner of increase and regrettable necessities.
To really get the manner of increase, consider this, honestly, heavily ironic scenario. Imagine a factory that pumps out a ton of goods, but it heavily pollutes the local air and water in the process. Because of that pollution, workers and nearby residents actually get sick. So they go to the hospital, they pay expensive medical bills, and guess what? All that new spending on healthcare is tallied up, and the GDP officially goes up. It's crazy, right? Exploiting natural resources or creating messes raises the GDP on paper while actively and severely reducing the net welfare of the actual people. And this brilliantly illustrates the concept of what economists call regrettable necessities. These are forced expenditures that inflate GDP, but merely return society to its original baseline welfare. Think about the money you're practically forced to spend on commuting transport just to reach your workplace, or medical treatments required specifically because of city pollution. All these defensive outlays are included in GDP. They make the economy look way bigger and more active, but they certainly don't make anyone happier or better off than they were before the problem even existed.
Furthermore, we've got to look at how human capital is treated in these raw calculations. Growth that's built on the back of, say, child labor, significantly longer working hours, really unhealthy factory conditions, or worker exploitation, that creates temporary statistical gains. The total output figure goes up undeniably, but true economic welfare undeniably falls. The data is basically trading long-term human well-being for a short-term bump in the national accounts. It's bad trade.
Now, for our final 2 veils, numbers 5 and 6, the monetization gap and omitted quality of life.
Okay, let's look at the monetization gap. Think about unpaid domestic labor for a second, like the vital, everyday services of a stay-at-home parent. The value of this labor is immense, right? But because no money officially changes hands, it is completely 100% excluded from GDP. But imagine taking that exact same task, say tailoring clothes, and paying a market tailor to do it. Suddenly, boom, it's a paid transaction and the GDP is inflated. The actual amount of goods produced in the world remains exactly the same, but the GDP rises merely because a non-market task was monetized.
Then there's the complete exclusion of non-market items and, honestly, crucial quality of life metrics. Think about leisure time. Shorter working hours definitely make people happier, But this massive increase in welfare bypasses official counting entirely. Or consider a family growing fresh vegetables in a kitchen garden. Their personal welfare increases, but without a market exchange, it goes completely unvalued. And most importantly, vital qualitative indicators like life expectancy, adult literacy, and child mortality, which are basically the very definition of a good life, raw GDP calculations ignore them completely.
So what does this all mean? The crucial point to take away from this explainer is this. GDP is a lot like a mirror, but it's a mirror that only reflects a tiny fraction of reality. We have to look past the veils. While real per capita income is generally used as the standard go-to benchmark for measuring living standards and economic welfare across the globe, well, as we've clearly seen, it is deeply flawed when you view it without context. The raw totals just don't tell the whole human story.
Actually, the source text we're exploring today summarizes this perfectly. It states per capita income is only a partial index of economic welfare, because economic welfare depends not only on the size of income, but also on the distribution of income that accompanies an increase in national income. To put it simply, raw numbers are effectively meaningless if we aren't also looking at the qualitative human impact behind them. Which leaves us with this final, kind of provocative thought. Once we strip away the statistical illusions of GDP, what really makes a society wealthy? Is it just the sum total of all market transactions? Or is it health, equity, leisure time, and a clean environment? Keep that question in mind the next time you're looking at the economic news. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I really hope this helps you see the numbers in a whole new light.